Hola! Mi nombre es Pepe. Welcome to Joe and Black Ministries. I'm Father Joe Krupp, and you are not. And I had a spicy chicken breakfast sandwich. And I have no idea why I'm telling you this. It was delicious. We are filming this way out of order. Now, the day you're listening to it is July 23rd, the year of our Lord 2025. And, but for me, it's a different day. It's actually the future. I'm filming this in August of 2025. I have power you people can't imagine.
El Futuro.
What's that?
El Futuro.
El Futuro, which is Spanish for the Futuro. Today, I am, as you listen to this, if you're listening it to the day it was released, I am away on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again. I am off on vacation and having hopefully a joyful time, or I'm dead. If I'm dead, and this is my last podcast, Dad gets my stuff. Carrie can have some. You can have my clothes.
The good stuff.
My clothes. Wouldn't that be an awful gift to get from a priest? A layperson is just like, well, congratulations, you got 10 clerical shirts and 10 pairs of black pants, neither of which fit you.
I'm taking all the tabs. I'm taking all the collars.
Oh, heck yeah. You could rip these out. They're good weapons in a fight, in a prison fight. So today what we're going to do, and honestly, I don't know how long, this might not take a whole hour. I don't know. But we're going to look at the race of Genghis Khan, or Genghis Khan, or Chinggis Khan. It literally depends who you ask. And that's part of our first little thing that we need to know before we get into it. Namely, what's fascinating, and I think I said this last episode, for being easily one of the most important humans to ever live in terms of their influence on the world, we don't know a ton. Why? We don't know what year he was born. We don't know where he was born. We don't know what he looked like. We don't know how he died. We don't know where he was buried. There's just so much we don't know. That his first years, we know because of what he said or people around him said when either Muslims or Chinese were writing down things. Mongolians weren't writing this down yet. They didn't write things down. And also because of that, what you run into is everybody's name is spelled 15 different ways or pronounced 15 different ways. For me, two big challenges for today that I hope we overcame. One is I've read these things. I have not heard people pronounce them. So I just assume I'm going to be butchering names left and right. But everybody involved is dead. I didn't even know they were sick. And the other thing is, especially at the beginning, it's, well, Temujin was his name. Temujin's mom was from this tribe, the Shikalakalumdibur, you know, and you're like, you don't need to know that. So I'll say his mom's tribe.
Nice.
Yeah, this is how we roll. So those are, I guess, little caveats. And you'll hear something, like what I'm going to try to tell you is only the things they're sure about, or as sure as they can be about anything. Dan Carlin, if you want to listen to a cool thing on this, listen to The Wrath of the Khans. And one of the things he points out as the most common description of what Genghis Khan looked like was, seriously, ready? Red hair, green eyes. Which you think, what? Yeah, what you're going to learn is that there's a few kinds of plains warriors at this time, like the Mongols, but there were also these dudes called the Tartars, or Tatars, depending on who you read, who were sort of a bridge between the world to the focus west and the world to the east. So they brought green eyes, red hair, height, all kinds of things. Because as you can imagine, there was a lot of, well, frankly, what the Mongols, forgive me, but called marriage. It's not what you think. It means a woman was taken by a man. They called that marriage. So there's a lot of DNA getting shuffled around from all sorts of different ethnic groups. So all of these are kind of challenges. I hope I do a good job today. If I don't, you can cut my pay in half. So remember this, because I'm going to forget it. You can call him Genghis Khan, Genghis Khan, Genghis Khan, Bob Johnson. His name was Temujin. And I'm going to try to remember to call him that until the people decide he merited the term Genghis Khan. Okay? So, when was he born? No clue. You'll read as early as 1155. You'll read as late as 1167. You might say, well, how didn't they know that? Well, they weren't Christian. Christianity and the legalization of Christianity and all that just kind of gave everybody at the time, even the Muslims, a date. Okay? There is one AD. Anno Domini, AD, the year of our Lord. And, but they didn't have this. Now, his mom was Christian. Temujin's mom was a form of Christian, but again, they didn't bring the calendar with them. So they didn't really do things that way. They tended to use the Asian, the Chinese calendar. Like one source said he was born in the year of the pig, and it would behoove us to believe that one. How was that? Thank you, Carrie. And one says he was born in the year... Oh, shoot, now I forgot because all I could do is stop myself from making more pig puns. You know?
It's a tough job.
It's tough. So we don't know when he was born. We know he was born. Where was he born? Yeah, not sure. They believe it was on the Annan River, and it seems to be the most likely one just because a lot in his early life happens near there. You'll read a number of sources that were fairly to partly cloudy confident that he was born in Russia. And I don't mean Russia way the heck over by Europe, but the part of Russia that's all the heck over by Asia. Either way, he was born. His dad's name was Yasugai, I think. Yasugai. And his mother's name was, I'm going to mess this up, Halun. Okay? Like, hey, Loon, don't make it bad. Take a sad song and make it badder. So Halun and Yasugai were his mom and dad. And here's the thing. And again, I don't know how sensitive people who listen to this are, and I don't want to be, whatever. Marriage was a funny thing for these folk. It was considered an acceptable practice. I just thought of this. Oh my gosh. So yesterday I was trying to explain to someone about the rules in baseball for stealing signals. And this is fascinating. Look it up. You can steal signals. That's perfectly legal. You can't get caught. Right? And not only that, you cannot use electronic means or, that's unless you're the Houston Astros, then it's fine. You keep your World Series, which they earned. Nobody freak out. It's just a good joke. What were we talking about? Oh, so here's the thing. Sort of like that, here's how it goes. And again, forgive me for how awful this is. Life was very hard. So if a guy needs a wife and he's fairly confident he's in some way related to the women around him, he'd go steal one. Just go to another tribe and kidnap a woman. Now, sometimes it was kidnapping like wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Truly. Like where you meet with her dad and say, I want to marry your daughter. No, wink, and then you go get her and no one's upset. She might have been upset, but being frank, no one cared. Right? It was a patriarchal society. Like it is now. Okay, sorry. I just couldn't resist that. So what we know is he did abduct his wife, Halun. Now, she was loyal to him his whole life. Whether that was just her conscience or whether she actually loved him, it's really hard to tell. And again, no one would have really cared. Her tribe cared. And that's going to come back and bite them in the tail. But she was abducted from the Merkit tribe. Now, again, I'm going to try to stay away from tribal names, but you need to know that one because it comes up later. Right? So his dad, Yasugai, abducted Temujin's mom, Helun, from the Meerkats, who now have their own show on Disney. So we know he was born and had a blood clot in his little fist. And we know that because that was considered a very rare and fortuitous sign that the child was going to grow up to be an exceptional warrior. And this went out ahead of Temujin before he became famous. So it seems that this one was true. Not just a legend, that he was holding a blood clot in his little boogly fist when he was born. Why did they name him Temujin? Again, no one's sure. They think, iron. The name means iron. The word Temur in his language meant iron. So best guess, well, kid was born holding a blood clot. That kid's iron. Okay. But who knows? So again, we're running into, oops, I lost my little mouse. We're running into all these troubles with what we don't know. Okay. He had there were 3 more boys born and 1 daughter. He also had 2 half-brothers, we would call them, from Yasugai's second wife. And when we say second, it's actually technically secondary. You could have multiple wives. If 2 women, like I told you guys, 2 women asked me to marry him, I said yes to both, and I thought that was bigamy. I'm so sorry. So you and I would say half-brother, and Father Lay and I talk about this. So I have a cousin who I'm extremely close to, and I'll say that's my sister, Joe. And it's funny, I'll have to correct myself when I realize I'm trying to explain not a biological relationship, I'm trying to explain a heart relationship. And Father Lay, it was so funny, when he moved here from Fiji, he told me that's one of the reasons he moved in with me. He said, it's just not something, he said, for like Americans will say, oh, well, that's their adopted son, or that's their cousin. He was like, we just don't do that. You tell the truth of the relationship. And this is how they were. So when we say these are his half-brothers, there might be some who listen to this, and I only know America in this regard, who would say, oh, that's a different relationship than his other brothers. Not to them. Not to them. So he has 5 brothers and 1 sister. Okay, and her name was Lucy. I'm totally kidding. I could tell you the names if you want, but sweet fancy Moses. None of them are easy. Like, apparently mom and dad were like, our kids will be famous for having names no one can say. So everybody grew up with mom and dad on the banks of the Yannan River, and that's where dad taught them to be warriors. And that's where the whole tribe would teach you to be warriors. And again, being candid, when I say teach you, I mean beat it into you. This was a place where it was absolutely day-to-day survival for food. There was constant war. What you had in Mongolia was a complete region filled with 1 million tribes that were fanatically loyal to their little tribe. If you would have said to them, are you Mongolians? They would have, am I what? No, I'm a member of this family and this tribe. And much like I told you was going on in the Middle East, the tribes were constantly killing each other, constantly abducting from each other. Everybody was hungry. And even in wealthier families, they ate mice. They ate anything they could get their hands on. The mortality rate for these humans was shocking. Okay. So you have humans growing up that if they somehow survive to 10 years old, these are lean, hard people, wildly skilled. And we went through all of this before. I won't get too much into it, but skilled with the bow and the arrow on a level most of us will never see our whole lives. Yeah. So when Temujin was 8, remember, Temujin is Genghis Khan, but as a boy, his dad decided, I got to find him a suitable bride. Now, his dad was a fairly partly cloudy guy, important guy. He had 3 or 4 tribes that were all united by marriage or by familial bonds, and it was a simple system. I'll protect your tribe, you protect mine. Because the more tribes you can get working with you, the safer you are. But you're also dangerous, because if anybody within that 6-tribe confederation decides, I think I could run this whole thing, well, he will kill you and try. This is just so it was this delicate balancing act of I need enough families on my side and not too many. Now, Yasagai was known for being a ferocious warrior and a brilliant dude. And so what he did was he went back to his wife's tribe, a very prestigious and powerful tribe, and Dad approached them and arranged a marriage from there. So now Temujin is going to be married to a gal named Borte. Okay? Borte is from her mom's tribe. He is, of course, from his papa's tribe. How we doing? Are we doing okay?
Yes.
Is this too many names?
No.
Okay. So, here's the thing. Borte's dad knew my girl's worth a lot more than your boy. And this was a very common practice. So he required that Temujin work for him like a slave for 5 years. Then you can marry my girl. Okay? You're going to work off the debt. Much like when you failed to pay at a Chinese restaurant and wash dishes. Do you remember, like in the 80s, that happened a lot in TV and in the movies?
TV, yes.
I think today they would not do that.
No. I don't think they did.
Right.
Like
I don't think they did it then. You can't pay your bill, go wash dishes. Like, what if he stinks at it?
Right.
Like, and the learning curve. Anyway, okay. So, what were we talking about? So now Yasagai's got it all set up. He just leaves Temujin there. Now, you work for this guy. And you work hard. And if you do a good job, you get to marry that chick. Great. So now Yasagai is heading home. On his way home, he wasn't able to hunt anything to eat, which sometimes happens. In those tribal cultures, what you do is if you bump into somebody, you ask them. And you are morally obligated to share your food. So if you got a sandwich and a complete stranger comes up and says, do you have food? You got to give him half. He bumped into Tatars, a band of Tatars, and asked them for food. And when they recognized, this guy's a beast, we know this cat, they decided to get rid of him. So they poisoned the food they gave him. He recognized he had been poisoned, and he killed all of them. Big dude, apparently. And again, he was known for this. And he got home pretty close to death. When he got there, he got a trusted retainer. Go get Temujin. Right? Get him back here. I'm dying. And he died. So Temujin comes home, and his dad, who's the leader of a few united families, is dead. He's not 10 yet. We're not sure how old he was, but we know he wasn't yet 10. That's all they wrote. And his stepbrother is only 2 years older, so neither of them are in a position to take over the clan. Now, this is where the harshness of steppe life comes in. So what do you do if you're that clan that now has 2 boys who are prospective candidates to lead when they get old enough? Well, you abandon them. You literally say, you stay here, we're leaving. And that's what they did. The unity of that tribe was shattered in this fear that, well, what's going to happen? We'll pick a leader, then one of these 2 will get old enough and say, I should be the leader. And how do we get around this? I know, we'll let them die. It's a death sentence. If you don't have others working around you, you're dead. So, Temujin's mom and all the boys are now on their own. It's a problem. It's a problem because they were constantly on the brink of starvation. again, they all, talking to Chinese scholars later, talked about like just literally they were so hungry. If they could get a mouse every other day, they were pretty happy, and they'd eat it raw. And why would you eat it raw? Well, because otherwise you got to start a fire. And if you make a fire, someone's going to see you there. What, a woman and 6 helpless kids? Well, let's kill the kids and take her. They were constantly on the run. He was constantly abducted. All of the boys at different stage were. But there was also a real tension between the 2 oldest boys, Temujin and Betar, right? So, and again, I think I'm saying Betar's name right. I think. He's dead. Here was the problem. Temujin's mom and dad were both royalty. Betar's mom was, let me get this right. Dad was, but mom wasn't. But Betar's 2 years older. So already there's this, well, who's the heir? While they're trying to survive, there's constant nitpicking about this. And there's constant fighting over, well, we got 2 mice today, and there's 6 kids and mom. How do we divide it? The rule was you give it to the 2 strongest boys. That's the general rule, right? Because then they're in a better position to hunt and get you more food. Either way, depending on who you ask, Temujin and the 2 boys who lived through this all said that Betar was hoarding all of the food. And so what did they do? Temujin talked to his youngest brother, Kasar, and said, we have to kill him. We have to kill our oldest brother. And so they tricked him, set an ambush, and murdered him. This is going to shock you. His mom was not happy. And there's some tension there for a long time between Temujin and his mom. Now, Betar, the other, his younger brother, right, the other half brother, what's really interesting, and this you're going to see as a kind of pattern, he didn't go after vengeance. He was with Temujin. And you're going to see for the rest of his life, it feels like to me, feelings like to me that when people spent time with Temujin, they either became fanatically loyal to him or wildly terrified of him. And this is a theme. You're going to see, like, these cats he picked up here, right? His youngest brother, Kasar, and what do you call him? The brother, Belgatai. They never left his side again. They stayed with him. Now, he also, at this point, encountered a rich kid, like the equivalent of rich, which would mean he ate a meal every day, maybe, named Jamuka. I always say that. Okay, Jamuka, right? And this guy becomes a key figure in Temujin's life. At some point, they did this ritual where you exchange knuckle bones and arrows, and then you sleep under the same blanket one night. And just sleep, don't get on whatever. You know, Americans, if you mention sleeping, sex? No, there's actually people who, sleep. And all of this was to cement a pact that is meant to last forever. So now we have Temujin somehow, and this is what's so insane about him, okay? He has nothing. They're constantly in danger. They're not just poor. They're dying poor. And he's picking up allies, including an aristocrat who's like, this guy's got a future. He's also picking up being abducted, which, again, fairly common practice. He was abducted numerous times. He was really good at escaping. And I'm going to give you one example because it's kind of what seems to happen a lot. Namely, he's captured. He escapes. Like, they put him in a pit. And excuse my crudeness, this is what you did. You put him in the hole you poop in. I'm sorry. I don't know how else to say it. Your goal is not to just capture them. It's to humiliate them. And it's to shame them. He somehow got out of there. And he hid in a river. Okay? And here's the thing. There was this guy named Sorkin Shira, who was in the tribe that captured him. He found him in the river. And instead of turning him in, he liked him. And he hid him in his tent. And he didn't tell anybody. So he hid in his tent for a couple days till they quit looking, and then he bugged out. And this goes on and on and on. There are more than a few stories of him being abducted, and in every one, it kind of picks up a friend. Usually whoever's supposed to be jailing him, who ends up talking to him, and they're like, let's get this guy out of here. All of these people that were good to him, he remained fanatically loyal to for the rest of his life. When he had nothing, he still fought for them. When he had everything, he protected them. He was as loyal as the loyalty he inspired. At the same time, you'll see that some that were friends turn against him because it all goes back to this idea. You need the right amount of families. Too little, you get overrun. Too many, you're going to be fighting for power. He kept picking up too many. Okay? How we doing?
Good.
Oh, great. So now Temujin has picked up these dudes that they call Nokor, I think, N-O-K-O-R, with a little over the first O. And again, this is just my boy, right? My boy. This is who I make a covenant with, a kind of covenant. It's just clear his charisma was a real deal. He somehow lived to 15, okay? And what did he do? Headed right to his future wife. Okay? My papa promised me Borte. And so now, believe it or not, Borte's dad meets him and is like, oh, you did all right here, boy. He survived at least 5 years living on a knife's edge. He protected his mom. He protected his brothers, except the one he killed. So Borte's dad said, yeah, you can marry my girl. And then he, as was the custom, travels with Temujin to bring his daughter. Does this make sense?
Yes.
So you've got Temujin, and behind him are his future father-in-law and his future bride. Now, the dad's going to take her and put her in Temujin's tent, right? And now they're married, right? Ladies, you didn't want to trip and fall into a man's tent. Just kidding. Okay. He also gave him a sable cloak. Or gave Temujin's mom, which is like giving her today a $100,000 car. Like, holy cow. Temujin took the cloak and he gifted it to a guy named Tugril. Okay, Tugril or Tugril. I'm sorry for these names. Who had a lot of tribes under him. And was friends with Temujin's dad. How we doing? Mm-hmm. Okay, so his new father-in-law gives his mom this beautiful gift. He was like, Mom, can I borrow that? Yes. He gives it to his dad's buddy as a way to kind of curry favor with him. And Tugril ruled probably the biggest chunk of what we would call Mongolia at this point. So he was fired up. I got this gifted, freakishly talented young man who clearly is courting my friendship. I know he's ridiculously loyal. The people under me aren't. All right, he's mine. And they became very close. So now the two most important people in his life outside of his fam are Jamuka and what's his butt? Sorry, where'd he go? Tugro. Okay, two very powerful rulers of small groups who really liked this cat. So he's in good shape. They now, Tugro, that was a pretty big chunk of Mongolia, and it's like, I got a good guy in this Temujin, okay, we're rocking. So now at this point, Temujin and Borte have their first child, and it's a daughter, which in that culture, it's like, ugh, all right. Yeah, I mean, it's nice, but it's just like Europe. How about a boy? When are we going to get a boy? Why? A daughter costs you, a son makes you.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Forgive the whatever. So here's the thing. Do you remember way back, I think it was way back, when I told you about how Temujin's dad, Yasagai, raided a camp and took his wife, Halun? Well, they decided this is the time for vengeance. Okay? They raided Temujin's camp, so basically his mom's tribe, and killed most of the people. Temujin escaped with a couple of his brothers, but his wife Borte was abducted, and so were a bunch of other people. So what did they do? We're unclear. What is clear is Temujin ran to Torgal and Jamuka and said, help. They fielded an army of 20,000, put Jamuka in charge, and let's go. The slaughter was unreal. It even it was shocking by Mongol standards. When they finished, nobody was left but Borte. They rescued her and killed everyone. Okay, now, here's the thing. Borte's really pregnant when they get there. And it's possible it was Temujin's kid, and it's possible it was any number of the men who assaulted her from the tribe they just wiped out. And the fact that nobody ever figures out, and of course, how would they, is what eventually leads many years later to a division in the Mongolian army. When Genghis Khan is long dead, their descendants are still, is pissy okay to say, about this. But, so this child was named Joki, or Jochi, depends, again, what you read. We're going to say Jochi, because Joki sounds funny. See? Do you hear that?
Yes.
Joki. It's instant. There's nothing you can do about it. But Jochi, no. Doesn't happen. So keep that in mind. Jochi is the first son of Genghis Khan and Borte, who, by the way, Genghis Khan, Temujin loved her. And that much is clear the rest of their life. Marriage, again, love, yeah, whatever. It was just like everywhere else at the time. Okay, well, you love your wife. That's, I guess, nice. But who cares? He loved her. She loved him. They were fanatically loyal to each other. He wiped a tribe off the face of the earth for abducting her. There are, one historian wrote, literally, there are no descendants from that people. They killed everyone. And he got his girl. But Jochi, you're going to see it's his grandsons who fight with the grandsons of the other boys. And it all goes back to, you're not even one of us. Okay? Over the next about 12 years, Temujin and Borte have more kids. Chagatai, Ogadai, and Tului, and 4 girls. And I ain't going to try. But like, blah, 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 and blah, 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 okay? So now here we are. Temujin has a wife he loves, and he has some other wives. And he has 4 boys and 4 girls, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 boys, 4 girls. Temujin's at a relatively as peaceful time of his life as he'll ever have until he kills everyone. He was with Jamuka. It's just saying Jamuka seems so funny. Doesn't that sound like coffee? Or
A little bit.
yeah. All right. Well, anyway, so they kept their pack. They stayed loyal to each other, and then something happened. We don't know what. Most historians just say Jamuka. Every leader sees Temujin as a threat. It does seem clear on one level he was so fanatically loyal to people that helped him that there is no pattern to look at and go, yeah, well, he kills the people who helps him and takes over. He never did it. But the people, they turned against him. I don't know how to explain this phenomena. But he tended to stay very loyal. It appears. I mean, who knows? It's been a long time. It's been 800 years. But man, what happens here is Jamuka and him have some sort of fallout, such that they separate. And the separation seems to come with an understanding we're probably going to fight. What really messed up Jamuka was how many of his people left with Temujin.
Oh.
That Temujin didn't really have much at this point. Jamuka had a lot, but they liked Temujin, and they dug him. 41 of the leaders of Jamuka's tribe left with Temujin. And a bunch of commoners, which again shouldn't matter, but they mattered to Temujin, so they matter. One guy who you've heard me say his name a lot, probably my favorite Mongol of all time, Subadai, who you could argue easily is a top 5 general who ever lived. But at this point, no, he's a fisherman. So, but Temujin sees something in him, and he sure sees something in Temujin. So, he has this group now that it's kind of funny. They start to call him Khan. Like, it's not a huge group. They don't have a ton of territory. Khan is a pretty lofty title. And that's what they called him, the Khan of the Mongols. And so back to Turgle, his other guy, he was pretty fired up about it. Sweet. That's a great kid. He's a beast. You know, he's got a loyal following. But Jamuka obviously was not pleased about this. Jamuka. And they went to war. Jamuka attacked Togrul. Man, I can't say his name.
It's okay.
Bob.
Yes.
And beat him handily. Temujin had to flee. And when he fled into what we would call China and became a kind of servant of the Jurchen that was part of the Jin dynasty there. It was pretty normal practice back then. And he sticks around there for a bit. Ask me how long.
How long?
We have no idea. Yeah, I mean, it appears to be, let me do the math here, about 6 years. But whatever happened over there, the Jurchen liked him and used him to kill a lot of people. And they even gave him a pretty good title, and I can't remember what it was. But so now what we know is whatever happened down in China, in 1196, he's back in Mongolia, and he appears to have picked up some serious cash, as well as some new tactics. So he joined with the Jin, the Chinese Jin, and they attacked the Tatars. He also helped Togrul in reclaiming power in his tribe, because after the lost battle, he lost some prestige. So they, killed everyone they had to. And now you look, and there's a new power in the steppe. Genghis Khan, or it's Temujin, gosh darn, Temujin is no longer like this young guy who a couple powerful tribal leaders really like. He's not even really dependent on them anymore. Togrul is still a, subordinate to Togrul, right? But he was also pretty equal to him. Jamuka, for his part, he's trying to poke. He's not a friend anymore. And at some point, he caught some of Temujin's men and boiled them alive. Which, ow. But in the meantime, Jamuka loses more dudes. People just start coming to Temujin. They start coming. And so now Togrul and Temujin are goose-stepping all over the place, beating a lot of people. They defeated the Merkits, the Naimans, and the Tatars. They worked together sometimes. Other times it was like, well, you go that way, I'll go this way, we'll get them. I mean, all this stuff. And they're now very powerful, the two of them, and inseparable, it seems. In 1201, a whole bunch of different tribes that were not under their authority all came together, picked Jamuka, and said, you gotta lead us. We gotta deal with this. And so a massive confederation. This really united the Mongols. Let's take out Temujin and Togrul. Okay? We're gonna take them out. And it did not work. Temujin and Togrul proved to be unbeatable. And they smashed it to pieces. And Jamuka was caught and had to beg for mercy. Wow. Okay, so what do you got now? You've got this force that just beat one of the largest forces of Mongols, and now they went and beat a ton of the Tatar tribes, and so now you got three powers. Okay, you've got three powers in that whole area. You've got the Naimans in the west, the Mongols in the east, and in between them was a tribe called the Kirit. So what do we do? How are we doing? Is this okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I find this fascinating.
But isn't he like 50 by this time?
Oh no, he's well, again, we're guessing. He's 20, early 20s.
I thought you said, okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
a lot happens, right? He's mid-20s. Sorry, best guess, mid-20s. Okay, so what's he got to do now? Okay, me and Togrul, we're one. We're doing great. But every time this has happened before, the person above me is turned against me. So he goes to Togrul and says, I want to offer my oldest son to marry one of your daughters. Okay? Now, this is logical, right? If you're family, you're not going to kill each other. The problem was Togrul's son, Temujin intimidated him. And plus, the oldest son, is Jochi. And we don't even know if that's his kid. So, Togrul's son kind of does a whisper campaign, starts working with the elders in the clan, and we're like, we got to stop this. This kid has risen far enough. He's not important, and he surrounds himself with unimportant people. Temujin's pattern of rewarding good work instead of birthright drove people nuts, right? And so Togrul realizes I have to pick between my oldest son and Temujin. He picks his oldest son. So he decided we're going to trick him and we're going to kill him. And he lured him into a trap. The problem was there were two dudes who kind of took care of the horses who overheard it and told Temujin. And at first he didn't believe him. He loved this guy and he thought this guy loved him, and maybe he did, but he loved his son more. I mean, who wouldn't? And so what do we got? Temujin barely gets out of there alive. While he knew the trap was coming, he just didn't have the resources to stop the full might of Turgal. So he got out of there. A lot of his men were killed, but they all knew where to meet. We're going to meet here, because here was the thing. I have to fight Togrul. It's all or nothing. One of us will be in charge. So he called in everybody who owed him a favor, right? And he starts gathering this force. And at this point, Ogadai, who's going to be his successor, he was really messed up physically. He almost died in the fleeing out of there. Temujin made a covenant with this little army around him. And I'll read it to you in a minute. This group is the group that takes him to the top. What's fascinating is 9 different tribes were represented here. There were Christians, there were Muslims, there were Buddhists. Their only unity point was, we like this guy. Okay? Here was the oath, quote, and this was witnessed by a Chinese diplomat. Okay, so here's what he wrote. Temujin raised his eyes and looking up to the heavens swore, saying, quote, if I am able to achieve my great work, I will always share with you men the sweet and the bitter. If I break this word, may I be like the water of the river drunk by others. Okay? Meaning, may I disappear. I'm sharing everything with you, the sweet and the bitter. Let's go. So Temujin and his little army, they get into a battle with Togrul, and it lasted 3 days. And Temujin won pretty handily. Togrul and all the other leaders of the army were forced to flee. What's kind of wild is Togrul wasn't killed by anybody in the fight. As he was escaping, there was a name in there who thought he was somebody else and killed him. And when Temujin found out, he killed the guy who killed Togrul.
Oh, wow.
A little bit like Caesar in that regard.
Yeah.
What about Jamuka? Jamuka fled and joined the Naimans, and they assembled a massive army. So now we're down to 2 armies, major armies in Mongolia, the Naimans and Temujin's army. Sorry, I got a cough, I got a catch. So the Naimans rally under Jamuka and went after Temujin and his, I don't know, I call it his Covenant army. In May of 204, they fought and they were wiped out. Temujin and his men wiped them out in shock. Jamuka escapes again. So this is 3 times now where they dance the man dance. Jamuka loses and gets out of there before he gets caught. Eventually, Jamuka is betrayed and given to Temujin, who executes him. And, you're going to like this, he executed the guys who betrayed Jamuka to him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Isn't that wild? So now what do we got? Every army is under him now. He has united everyone under his leadership in Mongolia. And this is the thing the Chinese were terrified of. I mean, absolutely terrified of. The Mongolians were a huge issue when they were a million scattered little tribes that only hated each other more than the Chinese. Now, you got them all under one banner. Their hope, right? So now we're in 1206. Okay, so let's take a look here. So if we do the timeline right, if so it's 33 plus, give me a second, sis. It's 33, I think, plus, sorry, guys.
1204.
1204. 33 plus 4. So he's in his mid-30s now.
Okay.
And he is the sole leader of Mongolia. he gathered together this thing called the Kurultai, and this becomes the gold standard now for any Mongolian afterward. Whenever we need a new leader, whenever we need to have a meeting, everyone comes. I mean, everyone. It doesn't matter if you're, the guy who shined shoes, which they didn't have shoe shiners. You came to that meeting. So he calls this Kurultai, and where? The Anan River, which is why we tend to think that's where he was born, because he keeps going back there. He's given the title Genghis Khan or Genghis Khan or Chinggis Khan or Bob Johnson. And no one knows for sure what it means. The best guess is that it's basically Emperor of the Sea of Grass, right? The steppes. He has control over 1 million people now. And what does he do? Before he does anything, we're going to organize, okay? And this is where you see so much of his genius that is not military. We've already seen his military genius, and it's only going to get better. This is where you see his social genius, his ability to socially re-engineer an entire society. Remember, the Mongol system is all based on small clans, small families, units, right? These small concepts. There was no real concern for Mongolian. There was my family. And maybe my tribe. He went after this and completely reworked the social consciousness of the Mongolians, moving them toward a group identity. And he did it in a couple ways, but I'm kind of proud of these 2 sentences. That I think it's 2. I'm going to read these. I typed these. Genghis thus began a series of administrative reforms designed to suppress the power of tribal affiliation and replace them with unconditional loyalty to Mongolia under the Khan. Quote, it's easier than you might think. His charisma and brilliance, his ruthlessness and loyalty did a lot of work, but the fact that he killed almost all the tribal leaders was a huge help too. Right? There's just nobody to remind them anymore of, well, I was under Gordon for 40. Yeah, Gordon's dead. I'm here. And he just made sure that anybody who would have been powerful enough, he dealt with them, but not by killing them. We'll get to it. He reorganized everything into what we would call a military decimal system. Okay? So every dude between 15 and 75 was conscripted into a unit of 1,000. That group of 1,000 was then divided into groups of 100. And each group of 100 was divided into groups of 10s. And these weren't just military units, it's your family too. So my group of 10 guys, that's my wives and kids and all of their wives and kids. Okay? His goal was to form these group bonds as a part of a bigger group, and none of it based on who your dad was at that time. He's reworking it, right? Well, who was, in our group of 10, he made sure none of us were from the same area, right? It made sure, like, if Dad and I were under, Bob Johnson, well, then he separated us far away. We weren't in the same group of 1,000, let alone 100, let alone 10. Does this make any sense?
Yes. Yes.
The brilliant work, right? Now, each group of 1,000 operated both politically, socially, and also militarily. And warriors of defeated tribes were kept from each other. So, again, you got 10 guys from a tribe where we kill everybody. We're going to put them in 10 different groups. Okay? This was extremely effective. And how do we know? They never fragmented along tribal lines. Ever. Think about that. It's insane. He literally rewired them to some extent. And this is interesting. There were groups that he set up that stayed together until the 1700s. The last group of 1,000 didn't collapse till the 1700s. Holy cow.
Wow.
Right? And the Mongolian Empire was long gone by that point. So he had this group called Nokor. And they were close family and friends, and he appointed to the highest ranks and gave them the biggest honors, right? And this was all based on a meritocracy, which was new to them. Jebe, Subadai were both the sons of blacksmiths. He had a carpenter, a shepherd, and remember the 2 horse dudes who told him, oh my gosh, He's going to kill you. He made them the top of the food chain. Right? Why? They put their life at risk for me. He also created this group called the Keshig, or bodyguard. And this is really interesting. At the 1206 Kurotai, the Keshig was changed from this little group of bodyguards around Genghis Khan to 10,000 dudes. And they were given a ton of power. And they weren't bodyguards anymore. Or they were somewhat bodyguards. Mostly they were his household staff. They were the trainers of the military. And they were the administration. Okay? Who were these cats? They tended to be the sons of other commanders whose loyalty he wasn't sure about. They were hostages, right? They're all going to live here. And they're going to be surrounded by my people with swords. It worked great. The fact that he didn't kill them made a lot of them pretty darn loyal to him. And he made sure they had a ton of privileges. It's really fascinating. Like, you could just see the dude was a genius. So when we get back to like Subadai and Batu and all these guys were all started in the Keshig. Like, they were hostages.
Yeah.
Who just became fanatically loyal to him. And it was from this then that Genghis Khan started conquering China, which takes us to the start. So there you have it, right? How are we doing for time?
Good. We are at 56 minutes.
Oh my gosh, it's perfect.
Yep.
Okay, so in the end, what do we know? We know he was wildly charismatic. We know he was ridiculously brilliant. We know he was savage. We know that his first many years as Khan, tens of millions of people died. He did not even think of most non-Mongolians as human. They were rats to be exterminated. Did he have a grand ambition? Yeah, to be king of everything. And I have a hard time with a historian who will make it sound like he had noble goals. His goals were to conquer and to kill. Did he mellow when he got older? Yeah, I told you that. As he got older, he became more religious. He stopped doing the thing of, well, if we kill everybody, if we burn everything to the ground, then we'll have a lot of grass for our horses. And the Chinese in particular got him used to the idea of this beautiful thing called taxes. You know, if you don't kill everyone, they'll pay you, right? Wealth never meant a ton to him. Or if it did, it would be hard for us to tell. Why? Again, it sounds funny, but, you know, again, they wore mouse hair, they sewing together a million little mice, you know, and by the time he died, he was wearing the finest silk, but again, they didn't wash it, right? And they didn't consider washing clothes, they considered that offensive to the river gods. Why would I give them my dirt and my, right? So, you know, I think it was Carlin who pointed out, I think the best way to think of it, imagine you meet a group of conquerors who are coming, we're taking over Grand Blanc, and they have a massive army with them, and everyone's wearing Armani suits that are filled with holes and covered with dirt. That's it. You know, that was them. So the first reaction, a lot of people went, no, he doesn't care about wealth. But maybe he did, because he sure had a lot of it. And when he got loot, he gave it away. But that's just smart. Was that generosity of heart? Maybe. But it was certainly a smart move. It's how tribal leaders succeed. Is not by hoarding wealth, but giving it. This was the same with Attila the Hun many years before. A Roman ambassador who went to visit their camp found that all the gold they'd been stealing was literally in a pile in the middle of the camp, like it was garbage. No, the idea is, let's kill people. Let's expand. Let's have more power. It's just weird to think of.
Yes.
But anyway, so that's Genghis Khan, whatever you want to call him. He's dead. In terms of his death, no one's quite sure how he died. One thing says he fell off his horse, which they're not sure. That might have been a turn of phrase where he got old. One account says an arrow hit him and poisoned him. Like, they didn't understand gangrene. Oh, that arrow was poison. No, it's just you didn't treat the cut. There's a horrible one that a woman who he was going to assault. I don't want to get into it, but it was awful.
Okay.
So when he was buried, what did they do? Here's what we know. 10,000 men set out to bury him, and to hide his burial place, and to use horses to kick up the ground so you can't tell where the hole is. And the 1,000 that buried him, when they came to meet the other 9,000, they were killed. And then it just kind of kept going. So that by the time those 10,000 men returned, about 2,000 dead. Because they just, for some reason, when you get the Soviet occupation of Mongolia, it became extremely important to them to obscure any information about Genghis Khan because they didn't want a rallying point for nationalism. So a lot of information was lost then. But it would be hard to describe what he means to the people of Mongolia to this day. He is the most important person in their history, and they adore him. They don't tend to call him Genghis Khan. They call him by his proper name, Temujin. And anyway, cool stuff. So that wraps us up, I think, on the Khans. Now, Friday, I think Carrie's going to do a best of or something.
Yep.
Next Wednesday, I think we're going to do a best of. And by best of, it's mediocre because it's me. But I'll be back, and can't wait to see you all. I love you guys. I'm grateful for you. And I'm grateful for you listening. I'm grateful for your beautiful letters. I'm just so grateful. Yeah. And I'm so thankful for Carrie, who shows up drunk but works hard anyway. All right.
And now that you're on TikTok a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
It's all kind of unique.
Yeah.
Not all of it. Some of it is unique material that we don't put out anyplace else.
Yeah. So if you want to check me out, do you remember what I am on TikTok? Or no?
Joe and Black Ministries.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Groovy. Yeah, just look for Joe and Black Ministries on TikToks. We got a few silly videos, some very serious ones, and we jumped. We gained a bunch of followers. We doubled in a week, right?
Well, when I started kind of getting serious about posting, and I changed my name to a Joe and Black thing. We were at 400, and now we're at over 2,000.
Yeah. So, if that's fun to you, do it. If you're not on TikTok, don't do it. Yeah. I downloaded it, and I don't know, it's weird.
Yes.
Because it's a thing where you can lose time quickly.
Yes.
And doing something that, in retrospect, doesn't feel human at all. No. I know that sounds funny.
Yeah.
But, okay. Yeah. So, we'll wrap this puppy up with a prayer.
Yes.
All right. Salad pray.
All right.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, we're conscious of the fact that the evil we inflict on others can be a part of their formation as a human. We can unintentionally create monsters. And for any part we've had in the creation of monsters, Lord, forgive us. We're so sorry. Please forgive us. And for any of the ways, Lord, that you've used us, and we've responded and treated people with grace and dignity and kindness and generosity, we're so grateful. Thank you. Lord, please deliver people from the horrors of war, particularly in the Middle East. It's just insane, Lord. And please get us out of this mindset of these are the good guys and these are the bad guys, because it's all a mess. We need you, and we need you so badly. Bring peace, Lord. And help us to see in the bad example the fruits of an eye for an eye. Heavenly Father, you know the people we love and worry about. And you know all the circumstances in our lives that cause us to fret. We give all of it to you, Lord, because we love you and we trust you. And may Almighty God bless you all, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. My Kung Fu is strong. I'll see you beautiful people next week. And until then, frozen peas are my gift to you. Coach, is it over?
No, it's never over. It'll never be over. It's just starting.